Imagine a holiday table where every dish tells a story of resilience, creativity, and love. Meals crafted from what little was on hand, yet bursting with flavor and tradition. These are the recipes our Black ancestors relied on to celebrate Christmas, turning scarcity into ingenuity and survival into joy. Neck bones and rice. How could so little feed so much? Have you ever wondered how a few humble neck bones could transform into a meal that felt like a feast? In the homes of the 1930s, these cheap cuts of pork were browned until every edge was kissed with flavor, then simmered slowly with plain rice, creating a dish that filled bellies and hearts alike. The magic wasn't just in the cooking, it was in the patience, the rhythm of stirring, and the care taken to stretch every morsel into something more than survival. Families gathered around the table, savoring each bite, each mouthful a quiet testament to ingenuity. The scent of browned pork mingled with the soft aroma of rice, a fragrance that could chase away the shadows of hunger. But as the last grains disappeared from the bowl, one question lingered in the air. What other secrets, hidden in plain sight, were simmering quietly in these modest kitchens? And what dishes, overlooked and forgotten, could reveal the resilience and resourcefulness of those who came before? Sweet potato pie, no sugar. Who said poverty couldn't taste like celebration? Who needs sugar when you have sweet potatoes roasted to golden perfection? In the 1930s, Black families turned humble roots into a festive marvel. Mashed and spiced with cinnamon, nutmeg, or a hint of molasses, this pie was proof that creativity could outshine scarcity. No fancy ingredients, no fuss. Just a simple, nourishing delight that somehow managed to feel like a holiday feast. The mash was carefully pressed into a basic crust, often made from leftover flour or crumbs, yet each bite whispered celebration, even in the leanest years. Kids peeked over the counter, eyes wide at the orange glow of the filling, savoring a treat that made hard days sweeter. And yet, as the pie cooled on the windowsill, a tiny mystery remained. What other secret flavors were hiding in plain sight, waiting to turn everyday ingredients into a moment of magic? Could the next dish uncover a taste even more surprising than this one? Dried bean soup. Could one pot feed a family for days? Have you ever wondered how a single pot could stretch across an entire week of meals? In the 1930s, when money was tight and stores were far, our Black ancestors found ingenious ways to make every ingredient count. Pinto beans or navy beans were soaked and simmered slowly, their earthy flavors absorbing the smoky, savory scraps of meat that might otherwise be wasted. Each stirring of the pot was a lesson in patience and hope, a ritual that turned scarcity into sustenance. The aroma would fill the modest kitchen, wrapping around the children like a warm blanket, promising nourishment even when the pantry seemed nearly empty. This humble soup wasn't just a meal, it was a lifeline. It carried families through days of labor, long evenings by candlelight, and the quiet weight of shared struggles. Yet, as the last ladle disappeared from the pot, one question lingered in the smoky air. What other clever creations would transform nothing into a feast, ready to surprise even the most desperate kitchen? Pig feet and collard greens. The secret in the pot. Have you ever tasted resilience? In 1930s, Black kitchens, pig feet and collard greens were more than food. They were survival dressed in flavor. The feet simmered slowly, softening into gelatinous richness, while the collards wilted into dark, leafy goodness. Every simmering pot carried the aroma of hard work, of families stretching every ingredient to feed many. But the real magic was in the pot liquor, the golden seasoned broth left behind. It was never wasted. A ladle poured over plain rice turned it into something extraordinary, each grain infused with depth, history, and a quiet pride. It was a small act, a secret passed from one generation to the next, showing how scarcity could become art. Even a simple meal became a conversation starter at the table, a lesson in creativity, endurance, and love. And as the last drop of pot liquor disappeared into a steaming bowl of rice, a lingering question hung in the air. What other overlooked treasures were quietly transforming meals, waiting to be discovered in the next humble dish? Cornmeal mush. What secrets lurked in a simple bowl? At first glance, it was just a humble bowl of cornmeal mush, but in the kitchens of the 1930s, nothing was ever as simple as it seemed. Boiled slowly to a creamy consistency, sometimes enriched with a small spoonful of lard, this porridge was more than breakfast. It was a quietly powerful shield against hunger. Each stirring seemed to whisper secrets, passed down from mother to daughter, from one weary hand to another, hidden in plain sight. The aroma of cooking cornmeal snaked through the tiny homes, carrying with it both comfort and mystery. Families huddled around the steaming bowls, knowing that this simple dish had the magic to fuel the long workdays ahead. Days filled with sweat, sun, and the unyielding demands of survival. But there was always a question left unanswered. How did these unassuming ingredients manage to hold such strength, such resilience? And what other culinary mysteries, buried deep in the cupboards of the past, were waiting to reveal themselves, daring the next generation to discover them? Crackling bread, a crunchy secret hiding in plain sight. Ever wonder how something as simple as cornbread could hold a secret? In the kitchens of 1930s Black families, leftover pork cracklings found their way into the batter, transforming humble cornbread into something unexpectedly rich and crunchy. Each bite was a surprise, a tiny revelation of flavor buried in plain sight. The bread baked golden, edges crisp, while the cracklings inside whispered stories of resourcefulness. There were no recipes handed down in glossy cookbooks, just generations of experimentation, of stretching scraps into meals that filled bellies and hearts alike. Families would gather around the table, tearing into slices, unaware of how much ingenuity was folded into each bite. But the real wonder wasn't just the taste. The cracklings held memories, laughter, and sometimes even secret messages, passed quietly between siblings or friends who knew the value of every morsel. And as the loaf disappeared slice by slice, a question lingered in the air. What other treasures, hiding in the simplest ingredients, were waiting to be discovered in the next dish? Dandelion green salad. What stories lurk in the leaves? Could a simple salad hold the whispers of generations? In the 1930s, foraged dandelion greens weren't just a dish. They were a bridge to the past. Bitter yet vibrant, these leaves were dressed sparingly with vinegar or sometimes a drizzle of bacon grease, turning humble foraged finds into a meal steeped in memory. Every bite carried the echoes of African ancestors, a taste of resilience passed down despite scarcity. Families bent over gardens, fields, and roadside patches, seeking these bright greens, each leaf a tiny treasure. It was survival flavored with history, a quiet rebellion against hunger and loss. Even the smallest pinch of seasoning told a story of ingenuity, of making something nourishing from what others overlooked. But as the last forkful disappeared, a question lingered in the air. How many other hidden plants, tucked in plain sight, held secrets of sustenance and survival? And which forgotten greens could reveal the untold stories waiting to be tasted? Pone bread. Could survival taste like this? Have you ever wondered what hunger teaches? In the 1930s, when flour was scarce and cupboards were bare, Black families turned to cornmeal and water, simple ingredients transformed by fire into pone bread. Baked directly in the ashes of a wood stove or hearth, it carried the warmth of survival and the smell of ingenuity. Each slice was dense, earthy, and unexpectedly satisfying. There was no sugar, no butter, no adornment. Just the quiet proof that even in the hardest times, something edible could rise from almost nothing. Mothers and grandmothers watched over the coals like guardians, ensuring each loaf came out golden, not charred, teaching a lesson in patience alongside sustenance. Yet the beauty of pone bread wasn't just in filling stomachs, it was in the ritual, kneading, shaping, and burying it in the ashes. Every bite whispered stories of hardship, resilience, and unyielding hope. And as the last crust disappeared, a shadow of curiosity lingered. What other hidden resourceful creations were waiting to turn scarcity into a feast in the chapters yet to come? Blackberry cobbler, secrets in the summer fruit. What secrets hide in a humble summer fruit? Blackberries, dark and wild, were gathered from the edges of fields and forests, their tartness a hidden treasure. In the 1930s, sugar was a luxury, but clever hands transformed these tiny berries into blackberry cobbler, a dish that whispered sweetness without a penny spent. Biscuit dough, rolled roughly and laid atop the berries, trapped their juices like a hidden story, bubbling and darkening as it baked. The smell alone could summon memories of laughter, family, and the rare thrill of indulgence. Each spoonful was more than flavor. It was ingenuity and survival on a plate, a reminder that joy could thrive even in scarcity. No one outside the kitchen ever saw the care it took, the gentle folding of dough, the delicate pressing of berries, the the silent prayers that the oven's heat would work its magic. And when the last bite disappeared, a lingering thought remained. What other unspoken culinary wonders were tucked away in forgotten fields, waiting to be uncovered in the next chapter of survival? Fried fish heads. What did they hold? Have you ever wondered how survival tastes? For many Black families in the 1930s, nothing went to waste, not even the fish heads. Crispy cheeks and tender flesh, dredged in cornmeal and fried to a golden crunch, turned what others discarded into a feast. Frying fish heads required patience and skill. The oil had to be just hot enough, the cornmeal seasoned carefully, and the heads turned gently to avoid breaking apart. Every bite carried both flavor and history, a reminder of the resilience that flavored every meal. Children gathered around the pan, eyes wide, learning early that scarcity demanded creativity, and that richness could exist even in what seemed small or unwanted. The aroma alone could make a cold kitchen feel warm and full, and yet, each fish head carried more than taste. It carried stories, passed quietly from one generation to the next. But if the cheeks were this satisfying, what hidden lessons did the bones and the leftover bits hold, waiting to reveal themselves in the next survival dish? Okra soup. Secrets in the slime. Have you ever noticed how something as simple as okra can hide a secret? In the kitchens of Black families during the 1930s, okra soup wasn't just food. It was history simmering in a pot. Tender okra, chopped tomatoes, and onions melded with rice to create a dish that thickened naturally. A culinary bridge to West African roots. Every stir of the spoon revealed textures that were more than sustenance. They whispered stories of migration, survival, and ingenuity. The slime of the okra, often frowned upon elsewhere, became a badge of wisdom, understanding the land, honoring tradition, and stretching ingredients to feed a family. As the aroma filled the kitchen, it carried a quiet magic, drawing everyone near. Conversations paused, eyes locked on the bubbling pot, recognizing that each bite held lessons passed down quietly through generations. Yet while the flavors were familiar, there was always one question lingering in the back of the mind. What other dishes carried hidden truths, waiting to surface in the next chapter of survival cuisine? Cornmeal dumplings and tomato broth. Could something so simple feed a family? What makes a meal unforgettable when your pantry is nearly empty? For Black families in the 1930s, cornmeal dumplings and tomato broth were the answer. Cheap, simple, and surprisingly filling. A few spoonfuls of cornmeal, dropped into a simmering tomato broth, transformed into tender pillows that soaked up every ounce of flavor. No one knew exactly how many dumplings would stretch the pot to feed everyone, but the magic was in the guessing. A pinch here, a swirl there, and suddenly, a single pot could quiet hungry mouths for hours. Leftovers became treasures, eaten cold or reheated, proving that ingenuity was as essential as ingredients. Every simmering bubble whispered lessons about patience, care, and making something out of almost nothing. And as families huddled around the pot, sharing warmth and bites alike, a quiet curiosity grew. What other unexpected combinations could transform the meager into the memorable? The next dish, one that made even scraps shine, was waiting to reveal its secret. Pimmin's leather. What secrets hide in a chewy slice? Have you ever wondered how a simple piece of fruit could become a treasure? In the kitchens of Black families during the 1930s, wild pimins, small, tart berries, were transformed into chewy, leathery candy. No sugar, no fuss, just nature's sweetness concentrated through patient drying. The process was quiet and careful. Berries mashed, spread thin on cloth, and left to soak in the sun until they became pliable sheets of tangy delight. Each bite was a reminder of resilience, a tiny victory over scarcity, and a playful connection to childhood. Even the youngest could help roll or cut the strips, learning that something as humble as a wild berry could bring joy. And the smell, sweet and earthy, filled kitchens like a secret whispered from one generation to the next. But as the last strips were stored for later treats, a question lingered in every mind. Could the next foraged find be even more extraordinary, or would it disappear before anyone could savor it? Okra and tomato stew, a bowl of history. Imagine a simmering pot in a small 1930s kitchen, where the aroma of okra mingled with tangy tomatoes, filling the room with warmth and anticipation. For Black families, this stew was more than just food. It was a thread connecting them to centuries of African culinary traditions, carried across oceans and generations. The okra's mucilaginous texture thickened the broth naturally, turning simple ingredients into a comforting, hearty meal. Onions, garlic, and bits of cured meat might be added when available, layering flavor without breaking the budget. Every spoonful nourished not just the body, but the spirit, reminding families of resilience and resourcefulness. Children learned to stir carefully, to savor each bite, and to recognize that even in times of scarcity, flavor and culture could thrive. And yet, as the last ladle disappeared into waiting bowls, a silent question lingered over the stove. What other forgotten ingredients or forgotten dishes might hold the same power to transform hunger into history? Sugarcane sticks, nature's candy. Have you ever wondered how sweetness survived in kitchens where sugar was a luxury? For Black families in the 1930s, the answer was simple, yet brilliant: sugarcane sticks. Stripped, peeled, and chewed slowly, these fibrous stalks offered a natural, sticky sweetness that felt like a treat straight from the earth. Children would gather in the yard, their hands sticky with juice, laughing as they bit into the fibrous stems. There was no sugar shortage when nature provided its own candy, each chew a reminder of ingenuity and patience. Families passed down the technique of peeling and slicing the stalks just right, ensuring every bite released maximum sweetness. But this wasn't just about pleasure. It was survival disguised as joy, a way to bring light to cold, difficult days. And as the last sticks were snapped and the children ran off with juice dripping down their chins, one couldn't help but wonder what other hidden treasures in nature had gone unnoticed, waiting to be discovered and turned into a feast. Pimmins seed coffee, the hidden brew. What secrets could a humble seed hold? In the kitchens of the 1930s, Pimmins seeds quietly transformed into a coffee substitute, a warm elixir that whispered comfort in the early morning fog. Roasted over open flames until dark and fragrant, these tiny seeds carried more than flavor. They carried ingenuity born of necessity. The process itself was a ritual. Each seed carefully selected, cleaned, and roasted, filling the room with an aroma that mimicked the rich coffee most couldn't afford. Once ground and steeped, the brew offered warmth to tired hands and hearts, a silent companion to long workdays and cold nights. Want to discover more hidden culinary inventions that turned scarcity into creativity? Follow along and uncover the next surprising survival dish waiting in our story. Families huddled over steaming mugs, sharing stories, laughter, and the quiet resilience that made survival possible. No one could predict how this simple cup of Pimmins seed coffee might shape the day. Would it fuel a breakthrough in the field, a clever solution in the kitchen, or perhaps a secret plan whispered between siblings? Some secrets hide in plain sight, and this one, quietly brewing, was just the beginning. Homemade cane syrup drizzle, liquid gold. Imagine the slow bubble of thick amber syrup in a heavy pot over a wood fire. In the homes of the 1930s, families turned boiled sugarcane into this rich golden drizzle, a small luxury that transformed the simplest biscuits and pancakes into something extraordinary. Each pour carried the warmth of the hearth, the taste of hard work, and a sweetness that money could not buy. Children pressed their faces to the table, eyes wide as the syrup trickled over soft bread, sticky fingers marking the edges of plates. The aroma alone was enough to bring the family together, turning breakfast into a ritual of laughter and shared stories. For parents, it was both reward and nourishment, a way to stretch modest ingredients while keeping joy alive in the home. This humble drizzle masked a clever survival trick. Just a few ingredients, a little time, and suddenly, the ordinary became indulgent. But what other simple ingredients could transform into treasures? The next dish might just reveal an even stranger, sweeter secret hiding in plain sight. Parched corn coffee. Could this really wake you up? Have you ever wondered how a cup of warmth could carry both comfort and ingenuity? In the kitchens of the 1930s, when coffee was too costly for many Black families, roasted corn became a clever substitute. Parched until golden, the kernels were crushed and brewed like coffee, filling the air with a nutty, toasty aroma that made mornings feel complete. It wasn't just a drink, it was a ritual. Families would gather, sipping slowly, savoring each cup as if it were a rare luxury. The rich smell mingled with the scent of fresh bread, simmering greens, and sweet syrup, creating a symphony of survival on the simplest of tables. This humble beverage carried more than flavor. It carried resourcefulness, a way to stretch budgets while still enjoying the small pleasures of life. And while it lacked caffeine, it never lacked warmth, comfort, or connection. But here's the curious part. What other everyday ingredient, overlooked by many, could be transformed into a drink with nearly magical powers? The next chapter may just reveal a surprising secret lurking in the pantry. Turn-up green pot pie. What secrets lurk beneath the crust? Beneath a golden, flaky crust lay more than just a meal. It held a secret survival story. Turnip greens, humble and often overlooked, were transformed into a filling that warmed families from the inside out. In the 1930s, when every morsel mattered, the crust itself wasn't just pastry, it was a shield, holding together whatever scraps of food could be found. Each slice revealed a patchwork of ingredients: a few chopped onions, a spoonful of leftover meat, tender greens steeped in their own savory juices. To outsiders, it might have seemed simple, almost plain. But within those layers was ingenuity, patience, and care passed down through generations. Families gathered around the pie, breaking through the crust like uncovering hidden treasures, savoring both flavor and resilience. It was more than sustenance. It was a quiet rebellion against scarcity, a way to celebrate life despite hardship. And yet, as the crust disappeared and the pot emptied, one question lingered. What other overlooked greens or forgotten foods could be transformed into something miraculous for the next meal? The answer might surprise even the most resourceful cooks. Collard greens with ham hocks, a Sunday tradition, steeped in memory. The aroma of collard greens simmering with ham hocks could fill an entire house, carrying stories of Sundays long past. These were not just greens. They were comfort, a bridge between generations, a reminder of resilience in times when ingredients were scarce and ingenuity was abundant. Slow simmered over low heat, the greens absorbed the smoky richness of the ham hocks. Each leaf was tender yet robust, holding flavors that whispered of shared meals, laughter, and survival. Families gathered around the table, breaking cornbread to scoop up the savory greens, a ritual of both nourishment and togetherness. This dish was more than food. It was a lesson. The way the greens softened but never lost their strength mirrored the endurance of those who made them, their hands guiding every step with care and tradition. And as the last bite disappeared into hungry mouths, a lingering question remained. What hidden treasures in the pantry or garden might become tomorrow's Sunday feast, carrying forward the same spirit of resourcefulness and heart? Onion skin tea. Could this simple brew heal you? Have you ever looked at something ordinary and wondered if it could hold extraordinary power? Onion skins, often discarded without a second thought, became a lifeline in Black households during harsh winters. Stripped from the vegetable, dried and steeped in boiling water, these golden brown skins transformed into a tea rich in color, flavor, and tradition. The brew wasn't just warm. It carried hints of the garden, whispers of family kitchens, and the subtle medicinal magic passed down through generations. Coughs quieted, throats soothed, and colds met their match in a humble cup. No sugar, no fuss, only patience and the wisdom of ancestors who turned scarcity into remedy. Families would gather around the steaming pot, inhaling the earthy aroma while stories and laughter mingled in the air. Each sip was a quiet ritual of care, resilience, and knowledge preserved against the challenges of survival. And yet, as comforting as it was, one can't help but wonder, what other overlooked kitchen scraps might harbor the same secret powers, waiting for someone to discover them next? Okra fritters with corn silk, a secret ingredient revealed. What if a simple snack could hide a secret? That's exactly what okra fritters did in Black kitchens of the 1930s. Crispy on the outside, tender inside, these fritters were a common treat. But there was something unusual tucked within: shredded corn silk. Often discarded or overlooked, corn silk became a quiet ally. Mixed into the batter, it added subtle texture, a hint of nutrition, and a whisper of ingenuity. Every bite was crunchy, satisfying, and full of the clever tricks families had perfected over generations. No one outside the kitchen would guess the hidden ingredient, yet it stretched meals further, feeding children and elders alike without extra cost. The process itself was a ritual. Okra sliced, corn silk collected, batter mixed, and fritters fried in hot lard or oil. The aroma would curl through the home, signaling both hunger and warmth. And just as you thought you had discovered the trick, one question lingered in the air. What other humble scraps, dismissed by most, could transform ordinary food into something extraordinary next? Chicken feet soup, hidden strength in every sip. Have you ever wondered how a single ingredient could sustain a family through winter's harshest days? Chicken feet, often overlooked, were transformed into a rich, nourishing soup that warmed both body and spirit. Simmered slowly, the feet released collagen into the broth, turning water into a silky, nutrient-dense elixir. Tender meat clung to the bones, giving each bite substance and satisfaction. Families stretched this humble soup across meals, savoring every drop while knowing it fortified them for long days in the fields or around the hearth. The preparation was simple, yet deliberate. Clean the feet, simmer with onions, garlic, and any scraps of vegetables on hand, and let the flavors meld over hours. The aroma itself carried a sense of comfort, a reminder that even the smallest, cheapest ingredients held power. But the true wonder was not just in the soup, it was in the ingenuity behind it. How many other overlooked foods, hiding in plain sight, could be transformed into treasures in kitchens like these? That question lingered, teasing the imagination and pointing toward the next extraordinary survival dish: molasses coffee. The secret kick. What secret fueled early mornings when the pantry was nearly bare? It was blackstrap molasses, stirred into hot water, transforming a humble cup into a surprising jolt of energy. Its thick, bittersweet depth masked the lean realities of the kitchen, offering warmth and vigor for a long day ahead. Each sip carried more than flavor. It was a reminder that even in scarcity, there was ingenuity. Families relied on this simple brew to awaken sleepy bodies, sharpen tired minds, and stretch their mornings until the workday began. No sugar, no cream, just raw sustenance from a resource often overlooked. The preparation was almost ritualistic. A careful spoonful of molasses, a swirl of hot water, and a moment to savor before the day demanded action. Even the smallest kitchens felt rich when this liquid energy was poured. And yet, one question lingered like steam above the cup. What other hidden powers in ordinary ingredients had been quietly sustaining families through the harshest winters? The answer was out there, waiting for discovery in the next dish: onion gravy, liquid gold. Have you ever wondered how something so simple could taste so rich? Onion gravy was the answer. Thinly sliced onions, slowly caramelized until their natural sugars bubbled into amber sweetness, became the heart of every humble meal. Poured over rice or potatoes, this gravy transformed the plainest plate into a comforting feast. In kitchens where every penny counted, onions were inexpensive, yet their magic was undeniable. Families would stir slowly, listening to the gentle sizzle, inhaling the sweet aroma that promised warmth and fullness even in the coldest months. Every batch told a story of patience, creativity, and the ability to make the most from the least. The beauty of onion gravy lay in its simplicity. No meat, no cream, just flavor born from time and care. Yet its presence elevated meals, bridging scarcity with satisfaction, and connecting generations to flavors remembered long after the last bite. But what came next? Behind the simmering pot, another humble dish waited, one that stretched a single ingredient into countless meals. The secret of survival was far from over. Vinegar pie custard, a tangy secret. Could a simple splash of vinegar really transform a humble custard into something memorable? In the kitchens of the 1930s, ingenuity ruled, and vinegar pie custard was proof. With just water, flour, sugar, and a whisper of vinegar, families created a tart, golden custard that defied the harshness of scarcity. The tang was subtle at first, hiding beneath the soft, baked texture, but with each bite, it revealed itself. A clever trick of flavor that turned bare ingredients into celebration. Housewives guarded their methods like secrets passed down through whispers, for a slice of vinegar pie was more than dessert. It was resilience, a silent victory against empty shelves and frugal days. Children often eyed it suspiciously at first, unsure why something sour could be sweet in its own strange way. But one taste, and the mystery melted into delight. Yet behind every custard, a question lingered. What other magic could these simple, overlooked ingredients hold? The next chapter promised another revelation, a dish that turned poverty into a feast, one small step at a time. Grease gravy rice. How far could flavor stretch? Have you ever wondered how something as simple as leftover meat fat could feed a family for days? In the kitchens of the 1930s, grease gravy rice answered that question every time. Nothing went to waste. Every scrap of meat fat became a golden, shimmering gravy poured generously over plain rice, transforming it into a meal that filled both stomachs and spirits. The aroma alone was a reminder that scarcity didn't mean surrender. With a few onions, a pinch of salt, and the humble rice simmering beneath the savory glaze, families savored every bite as if it were a feast. Children learned to appreciate flavor in unexpected places, and adults found pride in stretching a single ingredient into multiple meals. Every mouthful carried history, ingenuity, and quiet defiance. Grease gravy rice wasn't just food, it was survival plated with dignity. But what if the next dish revealed an even stranger twist on flavor? Something that used an overlooked part of the animal, yet became a treasured delicacy. The mystery of the next chapter awaited, teasing with curiosity and hunger. Peanut soup, the secret ingredient that kept families strong. What if the secret to survival was hiding in plain sight? In many 1930s kitchens, it was peanuts. Not eaten alone, not roasted or salted, but ground into a rich, creamy soup that warmed the body and nourished the soul. Peanut soup was more than a meal. It was a quiet act of ingenuity, a way to turn humble legumes into sustaining protein. Steaming bowls carried a comforting aroma, masking the frugality behind the flavor. A handful of peanuts, water, maybe a dash of salt, sometimes a few scraps of meat, and suddenly there was a dish that could feed a family without costing a fortune. Curious about more hidden culinary secrets from this era? Subscribe and follow along to uncover the next surprising dish that thrived in scarcity. Each spoonful was a reminder that even in scarcity, care and creativity could transform the ordinary into something extraordinary. And yet, the recipe wasn't just about food, it was about legacy. The same flavors whispered secrets from African ancestry, carried through generations, surviving oppression and poverty. But what if the next dish revealed an even stranger twist on sweetness, using what nature offered without any added sugar? Its story would intrigue and surprise, waiting in the next chapter. Ground kudzu root paste, nature's hidden thickener. Have you ever stumbled upon a wild plant and wondered if it could save a meal? That's exactly what our ancestors discovered with kudzu. The ground root, turned into a smooth paste, became an unsung hero in 1930s kitchens. Starch from this tenacious vine thickened breads, soups, and stews, giving meals body and heart without costing a penny. Families learned to coax flavor and nutrition from what others might see as weeds. A simple paste could turn a thin broth into a hearty stew or give cornbread a more satisfying weight. Each bite told a story of resilience, of people who turned the land itself into sustenance, finding abundance where scarcity threatened. Kudzu was quiet, unassuming, but it held power. Its presence in the kitchen was a subtle reminder that survival often meant looking closer, thinking creatively, and respecting what nature provided. Yet even with this clever trick, there were still desserts and sweet treats that defied poverty in ways even the most resourceful cooks might never expect. What could they have whipped up next? The answer waits in the following chapter. Cowpea and collard stew, hidden strength in a pot. What secret kept families full when money was tight and tables were sparse? The answer simmered quietly in cast iron pots. Cowpea and collard stew. These humble ingredients, when slow cooked together, transformed into a hearty, protein-packed, vitamin-rich meal that could stretch across days. Cowpeas, tiny but mighty, offered sustenance beyond their size. Collard greens, simmered until tender, added depth and nutrition, while any leftover meat or bones infused the stew with flavor. Each stirring of the pot was more than cooking. It was a ritual of survival, passed down through generations who understood patience, creativity, and resilience. Families gathered around steaming bowls, sharing warmth and nourishment that money alone could never buy. This stew wasn't just a meal, it was a lifeline, a quiet symbol of strength in the hardest times. And yet, even as the last spoonful disappeared, a question lingered in the air. How did these same kitchens conjure sweetness, richness, and celebration from the barest scraps? The answer, buried in tradition, waited for another telling. These dishes weren't just recipes, they were survival, creativity, and culture served on a plate. Each bowl tells a story of resilience, of families making the most of what little they had, and of flavors that carried heritage through generations. Curious to uncover more hidden histories and forgotten flavors? Don't stop here. Dive deeper, explore the stories behind every bite, and keep the legacy alive in your own kitchen. Subscribe, share, and join the journey through the rich, resilient culinary traditions that shaped the holidays in ways history almost forgot.